Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. But today, we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg because he's a terrible human being. And I'm not talking about the time about a month or two ago he came out looking like a Latvian Coke dealer talking about basically killing all the fact checkers. This goes a lot worse. Now, if you are a longtime listener or follower of mine, you know, quite frankly, that I have basically been on Mark Zuckerberg's case for literally years now. Originally putting out a video called "It's Time to Put Mark Zuckerberg in Jail" on the absolute litany of sins that he has committed against society. I do believe that in the social media era, his algorithms, his lack of care, essentially, quite frankly, in the name of profit, has hurt us, has hurt future generations, and on and on and on. And so that's what we're talking about, because new information has come to light thanks to Naomi Nix of the Washington Post. And this is absolutely insane. And I didn't think he would go this far, but here we are, because Meta was willing to go to extreme lengths to censor content and shut down political dissent in a failed attempt to win the approval of the Chinese Communist Party, and then therefore bring Facebook to basically China, aka the largest population on the planet. And this is according to a new whistleblower complaint. And here it is. This is the former global policy director at Facebook, aka Meta, and that would be Sarah Wynne Williams, who worked on a team handling the China policy. And she is alleging that the social media giant so desperately wanted to enter the lucrative Chinese market that it was willing to allow the ruling party to oversee all social media content appearing in the country and quash dissenting opinions. Basically what they're doing with TikTok, which is an actual Chinese product. Meta, obviously, aka Facebook, developed a censorship system for China in 2015 and planned to install a chief editor who would decide what content to remove, and they could, for the record, shut down the entire site during times of social unrest. And that is according to a copy of a 78-page complaint seen by the Washington Post. Now, this is something the Chinese government is very known to do. When it comes to the anniversary of things like Tiananmen Square, they'll basically shut down all the VPN traffic in China so that basically the Great Firewall is more hardened. People can't get out, can't get information. It's the same thing when party has their annual conventions, all this kind of stuff. So Mark Zuckerberg, aka founder and CEO of Facebook, aka Meta, also agreed to crack down on the account of high-profile Chinese dissident living in the United States following pressure from a high-ranking Chinese official. And the company basically hoped, essentially as they were entering China, that this would essentially get them in their good graces. This is according to a complaint filed with the SEC. So when basically asked about its efforts to enter China, Meta executives repeatedly, quote, stonewalled and provided non-responsive or misleading information, end quote, to investors and American regulators. Again, according to that SEC complaint. And yeah, if I was an investor in Facebook, and I am not, for the record, because I do not want to support that company, this would be of deep concern to me, because quite frankly, they're letting an authoritarian regime basically surveil, crack down. You know, they're a massive human rights violator. This is a huge problem. So Wynne Williams bolstered her SEC complaint with internal Meta documents about the company's plans, also reviewed by the Washington Post. And according to a memo in the complaint, Meta leaders faced aggressive pressure by Chinese government officials to host China's data, the user data, in local data centers in China. Wynne Williams alleged this would have made it easier for the Chinese Communist Party to covertly obtain personal information of its citizens. As its citizens is using social media, whether it's TikTok or maybe Facebook, if that ever came to fruition, basically that's a huge data mining problem. And Zuckerberg's fine with this. No issues. Bending over backwards for them. So, he's a terrible person. But it gets worse. Because while he basically was trying to get into the good graces of the Chinese Communist Party by letting them surveil basically everybody, he and Meta, aka Facebook, were saying something entirely different to the Western public. And once the China deal fell through, he basically stuck with his China bashing. In 2019, in a Georgetown University talk, Zuckerberg warned that China was, quote, exporting their vision of the internet to other countries, end quote. Well, yeah, you were trying to help them. The next year, then Vice President of Global Affairs Nick Clegg bemoaned in a post-op-ed that the governments were following China's lead to wall off the internet, quote, from the rest of the world. Yeah, and you were trying to help them. You were literally trying to get into that ecosystem, and you were trying to help them. Meta also funded a nonprofit, American Edge, that has run campaigns criticizing China and TikTok, obviously the Chinese-owned social media app by ByteDance Beijing. And you were trying to beat TikTok. You were trying to get into that ecosystem before TikTok bought Musical.ly. You are part of this problem. The company's anti-China commentary is also intensified as a result of DeepSeek's AI assistant, essentially since that bolted to the top of the app stores in January, with the Chinese-based company boasting that its AI technology was developed at a fraction of the cost, basically, of Meta's or OpenAI's, etc., etc. And again, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't care about human rights. He doesn't care about civil rights. He doesn't care about your privacy rights. He cares about money. He cares about power. That's why he cut the fact checkers earlier this year. This is essentially who we are dealing with, and he is driving, and his team is driving the largest social media platform in the world that is data mining us to the nth degree, that has been harming society, that has been pulling us apart, that has allowed disinformation and misinformation to ramp up, and now we know he wants to get into bed with an authoritarian regime and will do anything to allow them to surveil their people, providing he makes money. He gets power. It is time to put Mark Zuckerberg in jail. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And I understand the irony of that, but every time I post on Facebook, I'm hoping at least one person at least sees this and quits. You can follow me on YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private and informed. Take care.